Chosen one, you have taken great risks. You stepped out of your comfort zone. You weren't afraid to lose, and you refused to succumb to mediocrity. That is exactly why they are trying to stop you. But you must realize that every great leader, every pioneer, every true change maker in history was once considered dangerous. Because the system fears free people. The uncontrollable individual is the greatest threat to order. But you are just walking your own path, living your own reality. You have not declared war against them, but they still see you as a rebel, because your mere existence defies their rules. That is why your journey is not an ordinary journey. You are changing the destiny of a generation. You are the light shining in the darkness, breaking the chains, liberating your soul. And this light is shaking the dominance of the shadows. You can help bring love and inspiration to people in need by subscribing to this channel and sharing this message with others. This will enable the divine benefits it contains to reach even more hearts. With the courage God has given you, focus on the bigger picture. This world fears free spirits, but remember, the greatest changes come with the steps of the bravest. So never back down, keep shaking the world, because you are the chosen one. The underground hierarchies are uncomfortable with you. People prefer to think that everyone has equal opportunities, that respect is mutual, that power is earned, and that the world is fair. However, everything is governed by hidden hierarchies. These are not as obvious as in companies or governments. Instead, they are the silent, unspoken power dynamics that occur in friendships, families, businesses, and even religious organizations. They decide who will be respected, who will be listened to, and who will remain in their position. The majority of people accept these invisible bonds without question. The unwritten rules, don't overshadow, don't challenge, and don't disturb, are taught to them at an early age. Play your part, fit in, and keep your head down. But there is also you. You don't comply because it doesn't make sense to you, not because you are trying to challenge it. You refuse to pretend because you can see through the deception. You are only a problem for that. The moment you stop trying to win over those who secretly want your submission, you become dangerous. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't desire approval or acceptance. Donate $50 or more by clicking on the Super Thank button to help plant seeds of faith that will change the lives of countless people. His riches are reflected in your giving. Serve as a channel for His grace and see His kingdom grow through you. The spell is broken by your freedom. It forces individuals to accept the fragility of the system they support. If one person can escape, what prevents others from escaping? So, instead of disliking you, they resent you. Worse, the balance of power shifts just by your presence. You don't even have to speak. Those who rely on silent obedience are unhappy with your attitude and refusal to change. They accuse you of being arrogant, defiant, or rebellious, not because you have done anything wrong, but because you refuse to submit. Enter 77 right now to awaken your energies and discover the secrets of your soul. The irony is that the more they want to control you, the more you gain power. The more they push you, the more you realize that they were never as powerful as they claim to be. You, my friend, are completely out of their control, and the world fears the uncontrollable. You cannot be emotionally blackmailed. One of the first forms of control is guilt. Most people don't even realize that this is being used against them, and it is subtle and effective. People are taught from an early age that their worth is determined by the amount of sacrifice they are prepared to make for others. Experience what it is really like to be chosen. You are not alone on this journey. If you believe in your heart that you have been chosen, you are in the perfect spot. By choosing to join, you can further your relationship with us, access exclusive information, and get the help you need on your spiritual journey. It's not just about joining a group. It's about gaining access to special insights that can change your life and help you get closer to your divine purpose. Make your decision now and join us on this journey. Claim your right to be one of the chosen ones. Sign up today. It is not possible to ignore the power you have. Be kind, be understanding, and avoid selfishness. And if you dare to refuse, to put yourself first, you will face disappointment, shame, and accusations of callousness. But there is also you. You can see through the role. You can understand that someone is unhappy because they cannot control you, but they are not really hurt. You realize that someone who uses their emotions as a leash is not the same as someone who really cares. And at that point, everything changes. Because when you stop making excuses, you become uncontrollable. Emotional blackmailers don't know how to deal with someone who doesn't worry about being misunderstood. They anticipate that you will defend your decisions, give an explanation, and make a small concession to maintain harmony. But you didn't do that. You let them be angry. You let them talk. And instead of trying to win their favor, you leave without hesitation. They are afraid of that. In fact, most relationships, whether familial, friendly, or even professional, are based on silent agreements. But you are not playing this game. I gave you this and you owe me this. Giving comes from a sincere desire rather than a sense of duty. Also, you don't allow someone to shame you into doing something that doesn't seem right. For that alone, you are dangerous. They won't call you. They claim you don't empathize. But in reality, they want to say, "You don't let me control you, and I don't know how to deal with that." Because they cannot control you if you are not affected by guilt, if you can leave with your dignity intact, and if you do not give in to pressure. Moreover, there is nothing more dangerous than someone who refuses emotional ownership. You are dangerous because you cannot be bought. Most individuals have a price. Some may compromise their moral values for material gain. Others do it to gain prestige, approval, or a sense of community. Sometimes things don't seem clear. Sometimes it is as simple as pretending to agree in order to fit in, or remaining silent when they need to speak. These silent exchanges are the foundation of the world. When people know what you desire most, they know how to dominate you. But there is also you. You are an issue because you cannot be bought. Money is not the only issue. It is about realizing that no external incentive can force you to give up on yourself. Flattery is ineffective because you don't want acceptance. Peer pressure doesn't work because you don't need approval. No one can put a golden carrot in front of you and expect you to go after it because you are not worried about the possibilities. People, especially those who are dependent on influence and power to hold others accountable, find that disturbing in itself. They put you to the test. They make offers, little temptations to persuade you to make a small concession. They try to reject, to exclude, and even to make you feel that you are missing something when it doesn't work. But you don't back down. That's when the restlessness turns into anger. In Jesus' mighty name, we are told that your life will never be the same after today. Enter 88. Because if they cannot buy you, they cannot predict you. Moreover, if they cannot predict you, they cannot control you. Noisy and aggressive people are not feared by others. People who are independent, self-sufficient, who don't need to beg, and who can let go of everything without hesitation are the ones they fear the most. This is the kind of power you have, and whether you realize it or not, it ruins everything. They cannot control you. You cannot be seduced by them. Moreover, they absolutely cannot own you. Your unwillingness to be bought makes you one of the most dangerous people in the world, because almost everyone has a weakness waiting to be exploited. Their lies are exposed when you tell the untold truth. A dream created to make everyone comfortable is sweeping the world. But most people are not ready to give up comfort because it is addictive. So they call you too much or the problem, not because you are wrong, but rather because you upset the delicate balance on which they base their entire existence. They tell themselves that you are the problem because they don't want to change. It is easier to characterize you as careless than to admit that you are telling the truth, which perhaps they know deep down inside. But what they don't understand is that the truth spreads easily. Once a lie is exposed, it is never completely corrected. Your words create a seed in people's thoughts, no matter how much they try to deny it. And one day, when they least expect it, they will remember what you said. By then, it will be too late to take things back. They cannot fool you because you have seen behind the curtain. At a point when you can see through the illusion, everything changes. It may have dawned on you gradually or suddenly, but in any case, you cannot take it back. The world is not what it seems. The arrangements are illusory. Mechanisms don't work fairly. And the authorities? They are not as powerful as you think. Carefully constructed illusions of authority, justice, and morality underpin society. But underneath it all lies a game of manipulation, control, and tacit agreements that perpetuate the dominance of the powerful. And the moment you realize this, you stop playing. That's when you start creating problems. Those who profit from deception need public apathy. They want people to trust the systems they support, the tales they tell, and the masks they wear. And what about you? You can see behind the curtain. You can understand that regulations are only in place to maintain compliance. You realize that most of the facts are just stories to benefit the powerful. You can recognize when someone is trying to present an illusion instead of reality. This makes individuals uneasy, especially those who are addicted to deceiving others. They feel it when you are around. You are not easily impressed. You are not fooled by false pretenses, false modesty, or meaningless titles. You know exactly what they are doing, so you don't respond in the way they expect. They cannot control you the way they control everyone else. They are afraid of that. They try to discredit you, which is what threatened individuals always do. They accuse you of being neurotic, or cynical, or a troublemaker. Anything to make others not want to listen to you. Because when too many people adopt your point of view, the illusion starts to crumble. Moreover, a world where people can no longer be fooled is what they fear most. Weak egos are crushed by your energy. Some people attract attention just by being there. You are one of them. It is not necessary to be the loudest, the most aggressive, or even the strongest. This task is fulfilled for you by your energy, and this creates great discomfort for some people. Performance is the basis of weak egos. People wear masks, exaggerate, and create flimsy personalities based on other people's acceptance. However, this illusion starts to dissipate the moment you enter the room. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't beg for favors. You just are. And this is enough to change the atmosphere as a whole. Why is that? Because you are real. Moreover, those who rely on dishonesty are afraid of sincerity. If people have built their trust on shaky foundations, they cannot pretend to trust themselves around you. They feel vulnerable in your presence, not because you attack them, but because your mere presence confronts them with their shortcomings. You will be appreciated by some for this. They will acknowledge your strengths and try to learn from them. Others, even if you have done nothing wrong, they will still feel attacked, because there is always a villain in insecurity. Instead of facing their own shortcomings, they tell themselves that you are the problem. They accuse you of being arrogant. They describe you as overly intense, scary, or demanding. But in reality, you don't shrink to appease other people. And this seems like an attack on someone whose self-esteem is based on delusions. Ironically, you don't even do it intentionally. You are not trying to diminish anyone. You just exist unapologetically and stand in your own truth. And that's why you are dangerous. Because ultimately, your mere existence serves as a mirror. Moreover, weak individuals are afraid, but strong people are motivated by what they see. The fear of being alone is eliminated by you. One of the most powerful types of control is the fear of being alone. It keeps individuals in unhealthy relationships, forces them to adapt, and makes them endure things they should have given up long ago. Most individuals would rather compromise themselves than risk being alone. What about you? You have been down this road before. You've sat quietly, wandered on your own, and experienced the kind of loneliness that breaks most people. And instead of letting it destroy you, you have made peace with it. You realize that the enemy is not loneliness, but abandoning yourself to fit in. Everything changed because of this mental transformation. Because when you stop being afraid of being alone, you become unmanageable. People cannot use rejection to control you. You cannot beg for a place at their table. You can't put up with rudeness just to avoid being alone. They are afraid of that, because only those who are afraid of being alone are open to domination. They strive to tear you apart, to make you feel alienated. They cancel their leave because they expect you to come back. But it bothers them a lot to see you thriving in your own space, not caring and going on without them. They realize that you don't need them. It is not possible for them to manage such power. In fact, most people are not afraid to be alone. They are afraid of what they will have to deal with when the turmoil subsides. But what about you? You have accomplished this task before. You have sat in stillness, faced your demons, and come out stronger. Attempts to use loneliness as a weapon are now failing. That is why you are dangerous. Because someone who cannot be controlled is someone who is not afraid to be alone. Without permission, you violate generations of curses. In many families, nations, and societies, there is an unwritten rule: suffer like everyone else, continue the cycle, follow the script, limit the number of questions you ask. Also, whatever you do, don't give up your freedom. Your freedom is a reminder that they too have a choice, not because they don't want better. Generational curses involve more than tragedy or poverty. They also include behaviors such as fear-based living, dysfunction, and silence. It involves enduring toxic relationships because family is everything, diminishing oneself to fit in with others, and perpetuating the same pain because that's the way it's always been. But what about you? You wouldn't accept it. You didn't get approval to adapt, to change, or to heal. You just did it. And that's where the problem starts. Those who are still stuck see your progress as a betrayal rather than an encouragement. They resent your success, as if your healing is alleviating their suffering. They delude themselves into believing that you are superior to them, when all you want is to end the cycle for yourself, for them, and for those who follow you. But the truth is that not everyone desires freedom. There are those who are reconciled to their shackles. When you show them that there is another option, they are forced to face the fact that they made the decision to stay. This kind of insight leads to hostility. Then they blame you. They accuse you of being ungrateful, cold, and too different now. But in reality, they are saying, "How dare you prove that suffering is not our only option?" And you move on. Not because it is simple, but because it would be too costly to maintain the status quo. The curse has been broken by you. The story has been rewritten, and you refuse to inflict the same suffering on others to make them feel better. They may never understand. They may never express their gratitude. However, future generations will understand, and therefore, you will never give up. They worship idols, but you don't. There are gods in the world, but they are not divine. Whether they admit it or not, most individuals worship money, prestige, beauty, and social approval. They bend over to look acceptable, follow trends to stay attractive, and chase money as if it were the solution to their problems. They think that having more followers, more recognition, more approval, is the key to power. But there is also you. These false gods don't affect you as you go on with your life. Even though you admire wealth, you don't succumb to it. You naturally attract attention, but you don't seek it. Status is not necessary for you to feel worthy, because your worth is independent of any external tally. And they are uncomfortable with that. They cannot comprehend it. Climbing the social and economic ladder is the path to power in their society. So it shocks them to see you getting rich without worrying about the things they killed themselves for. This makes them doubt everything. If you are not driven by the desire for money, approval, or admiration, what drives you? You are appreciated by some people. When they see you breaking away from these dreams, they question whether there is any other way to live. Others, they must think that their gods are real, that wealth is the ultimate power, that success is related to approval, and that worth is determined by position. Because if this is not the case, if you can be powerful without any of these things, what were they living for? So they try to test you. They show you their wealth, drag you down the social ladder, and hang approval like a trophy. They look for proof that you are like them, not because they want to help you. They realize you have something they don't, only when you don't bite, when you remain disinterested and unaffected. And there is nothing more terrifying than someone who cannot be controlled, influenced, and bought. You confront them with their own helplessness. Most individuals live a cautious life because they have convinced themselves that they have no other choice, not because they want to. They keep their heads down, play it safe, and follow the rules, not because they are wise, but because they are afraid. Fear of failing, fear of being judged, and fear of crossing the invisible boundaries that society has set for them. They convince themselves that they are acting responsibly and rationally, but in their hearts, they know they are fabricating. Then they notice you. You are taking risks. You question the laws they have followed their whole lives. You treat the world as if you are confident, and you don't need approval to be there. And this affects them in some way. Some of them find it motivating. You remind them of their past selves and their potential selves. But for others, you serve as a constant reminder of their own helplessness, and they cannot accept it. They have betrayed themselves long before the world, and it is easier to be angry with you than to face the facts. That they had opportunities but didn't take them, that they ignored their intuition, that they helped build the cage they are in. So, they launch an attack. The only reason they label you as uncaring, stupid, and irresponsible is to make themselves feel better, not because you are. If they can convince themselves that you are wrong and that failure is certain, they don't need to evaluate their own judgment. They don't have to accept that the only thing really holding them back is themselves. But what sets you apart is that you don't need their understanding. You are not trying to win them over. You don't need approval to keep going. And that's what really scares them. Because if you could remain free, they could do it at any time. And there is nothing more uncomfortable than just knowing that you are afraid and that you are never really helpless. They get upset when you don't give them an explanation. Most individuals have been taught to explain themselves. They soften their interpretations, over-explain their decisions, and try to gain acceptance before they act. They are conditioned to feel that they owe the world an explanation for their existence, not that they want it. And what about you? This is not a game you play. You don't publicize the choices you make. You leave situations without making a big show of it. You evolve, adapt, and grow without asking permission. And this drives people crazy. Why? Because individuals feel more in control when they have an explanation. When someone defends their decision, it gives others the opportunity to agree, disagree, or argue. This gives them a sense of control over the course of events. But when you act without talking, when you just make a decision and act, you lose that power. This leads to hostility. People are interested in your thoughts. They want to know why you didn't choose them, why you said no, and why you left. They cannot bear that you are not responsible for your tale, because they don't really care. They will insist on answers, but their main goal is to give you the opportunity to reconsider. They are looking for a way to regain access, a loophole, or a chance to sow seeds of doubt and lure you back into their sphere of control. And the real resentment comes when you don't present it to them, when you don't want to explain it, and continue without discussion. They will label you as cold, disinterested, and arrogant. Not because you are, but because they find it intolerable that you don't need their approval. They are not used to individuals who make decisions and stick to them without regret, justification, or hindsight. But what people fail to see is that you are not defiant. You only have freedom. Moreover, those who continue to live in cages built with fear and approval will always misunderstand freedom, especially freedom that does not need permission. You are using power judiciously, and you are aware of its negative aspects. Power has two faces. Most people recognize only the polished, socially acceptable aspects of power, such as leadership, influence, and capacity for change. They applaud the concept of power when it seems honorable and motivating. But real power is more than light. Its edge is dark and primitive. It can be ruthless. It can be harmful. And the ability to grasp this reality without being overcome by it is what separates the naive from the truly powerful. You see strength as a force rather than a virtue. It is not inherent in the good or the negative. Whoever is ready to claim it is the true owner. Some people abuse it carelessly, resorting to dishonesty, fear, and manipulation to get ahead. Others reject it completely for fear of what it will do to them. What about you? You are walking on thin ice. Although you are aware of the negative aspects of power, you are able to manage it instead of letting it manage you. People are uneasy about this, especially those who believe they are powerful. They might say that you understand the game and are aware of every strategy, unwritten rule, and manipulative technique in the book. You can see through people's well-crafted facades, deceptions, and lies. But what makes you really dangerous is that you don't play dirty. You don't have to play. The most powerful individuals are often the most corrupt, as they think that authority only works when it is abused. And what about you? You lie to them. You maintain your position without lying. You exert influence without using force. You remain strong because you don't let the darkness control you, not because you are blind to it. That is why even the ruthless respect and fear you. You already know the rules, so you cannot be tricked. You know where real power comes from, so you cannot be intimidated. And because you have conquered what devours others, you cannot be controlled. In a society where abuse of power is commonplace, you are the outlier, and that changes everything. You are free because you are not afraid of hatred. The majority of individuals are prisoners of approval. They dilute their own truths to avoid offending others and change themselves to appear more pleasant as they tiptoe through life. Being loved is central to their identity. And what about you? You don't have to win them over. For this reason alone, you are among the most dangerous individuals in the room. You have accepted a truth that most people avoid. Being respected and feared is often more important than being loved. You realize that approval is erratic, not because you want to intimidate others. If it suits them, the same people who support you today may turn against you tomorrow. Therefore, regardless of whether others like you or not, you stand firmly in who you are rather than begging for approval. It's unusual to be so independent. This makes those who base their entire identity on the approval of others uncomfortable. They have no idea how to deal with someone who doesn't flinch in the face of criticism, who doesn't break down when rejected, and who doesn't engage in the tiresome game of people-pleasing. Your lack of interest seems to them like a personal insult. They want you to be interested. They are reassured by the strength of their approval, so they encourage you to try to get their approval. However, when people see that you can survive, thrive, and succeed without their approval, hostility arises. They accuse you of being arrogant, cold, and even cruel. Not because you are, but rather because you have made them realize how much they rely on approval. Their shackles are exposed by your freedom. Their fear of rejection is emphasized by your independence. And instead of facing this reality, they attack you. But the main thing is that even if you don't need to be liked, you can still evoke love. You attract the right people, those who really value power. They see in you what they wish they had, the courage to live freely. And therefore, you always come out on top, because you want freedom, and they want acceptance. Moreover, freedom is always more powerful. You make others doubt their true self. The deepest question is the one that most people spend their lives avoiding. Who am I really? They never dare to question whether the life they live is really their own, but instead create identities based on social conditioning, fear, and expectations. They distract themselves by numbing the pain and tell themselves that this is the way things are. Then you show up and suddenly they cannot ignore the questioning. You are living proof that there is another way, that fear doesn't have to rule them, that the principles they have been taught are not immutable, and that they don't have to be small, silent, or trapped in cycles they deeply hate. And it is this realization that is the most dangerous. Because once someone realizes that freedom exists, it is impossible not to see it completely. They may try to discredit you, make fun of you, or undermine you. But something changes inside. The voice they have silenced for years suddenly starts to rise. If others can do it, why can't I? And this question terrifies them. Because if the answer is, I can, everything changes. It shows that they are not really helpless. It shows that their justification is insufficient. It shows that all along they had the choice to be free, but they chose not to do it. Some individuals take this insight and run with it. They wake up. The cycle is broken by them. They take responsibility for their own destiny. Others, they oppose it. They fight you. They reject, condemn, and attack because if they accept your truth, they will have to face their own falsehoods. It will require them to accept that they have been living as a subset of their true self for years, if not decades. This is why you are disturbing others. You are causing people to reevaluate what they believe to be true, not because you are wrong. Even if they resent you for that, the truth is, you are proof that they are capable of more. And they will always remember you, whether they like you or not. Basically, the reason why you are distrusted, hated, and feared is simple. You are free. You don't live in fear of rejection. You don't conform for acceptability or beg for favors in a society that thrives on control. You don't compromise yourself to please others. Instead, you follow your path with confidence. People are really shocked by this, because your presence reveals something they would rather ignore. Power is taken, not given. That freedom is a decision, not a privilege by others. That their obstacles were never real in the first place. You remind them of their hidden strengths, the dangers they avoid, and the life they could have if only they had the courage. And instead of facing their restlessness, they blame it on you. They will label you as too much, dangerous, and difficult. Not because you are, but because you challenge authority. They put you to the test to see where you are weak. They push you to tear you to pieces. But they are unaware that you have experienced fire before. You have experienced rejection, loneliness, and self-doubt. And you have come out more resilient. Let them feel restless. Let them whisper. Let them misinterpret. Let them label you as they see fit. It doesn't change who you are. It is not your purpose to make them feel safe in their delusions. You are here to break cycles, push boundaries, and show what real power looks like. To be honest, they may never express their gratitude for that. They may never admit that they have had to mature because of you. However, when they finally face their own reality, they will think of you. After all, this is the hallmark of someone who was never meant to be typical. If this message has resonated with you, awaken something in you, or change the way you perceive yourself. Don't keep it to yourself. This is just the beginning, so click the subscribe button. There is more power to unleash, more truth to discover, and more boundaries to break. Tell us which episode moved you the most by leaving a comment below and liking this video. Above all, spread the word. Someone who is currently mired in uncertainty, anxiety, and the falsehoods they have been taught about themselves needs to hear this. It is your job to wake them up. Because this is more than just a channel. It is a movement. If you are here, you are already part of it.